I think it's one of the most important parts of reform that we have to attack as soon as possible. I think as a state legislator dealing with a lot of the issues around children in general, the United States has incredibly strong protections for children. We spend a lot of money ensuring that the life of a young child is going to be safe and protected. And somehow, if a child is a U.S. citizen but their parents are undocumented, we give up on those very basic principles of protecting that child. And they are no longer considered to be worthy of our support. So I think it's getting to some very fundamental value systems of our society that need to be fixed, because we cannot be tearing families apart. I've seen schools being impacted by children who all of a sudden come to school and they say, my father was taken from my house last night. Or all of a sudden we're seeing the huge impact of economic loss of salary and of support for families, for large families, that we're having to step up and take care of those U.S.-born kids.
Roy Beck, is there any way to fix it without just throwing open the doors and creating an entirely permissive system? I mean, there are a lot, those little kids that we just saw in that report are American citizens, and under the current laws, I guess, eligible for everything that an American citizen is.
But their parents aren't. In that case, both parents are illegal immigrants. I agree that the mixed status families are the most complicated part of this issue, I think, all the way around. Now, my organization, as you know, opposes a mass legalization. I think that one of the reasons why this Gutierrez's bill doesn't have any chance this year is because it's written so broadly. It's not written for just these mixed status families. It's a blanket amnesty that covers everybody except a tiny little percentage that are violent criminals. So I think that if this bill were really aimed at the mixed status families, it would have been written narrowly, and there would have been other things that would have been different that might have given it a chance this year. I think there might have been some of these. There's about 60 Democrats that hold seats that were held by Republicans 4 years ago. Those 60 Democrats, there's almost no chance they're going to vote for a blanket legalization. Now, is there a way to craft a bill? I think so, but I think that you would have to make it so it only deals with people who have these families that have been here long enough, not just somebody who just arrived in the last 3 or 4 years. Also, it would need to be so that you don't have the chain migration, that you don't automatically then open up lines for millions more of their extended family to come. That would be something. Plus have all of the, I think all of the enforcement that the congressman was proposing earlier in the program, the mandatory verify, to dry up or turn off the job magnet. If you have all of that so that you don't entice more illegal immigration in the future, that people who come here illegally in the future can't get jobs, can't get benefits, then I think there's a possibility that some kind of grand compromise could be found.
Marc Rosenblum, haven't there been some voices raised that propose, when they look at the family separation, mixed status problem, they say, oh no, let's just stop granting automatic citizenship to the children of undocumented. They want a more congressionally far-reaching solution to this problem.
Right. Well, to change the rules for kids who are born in the U.S. to make them ineligible for citizenship, that would require a constitutional amendment, and that's pretty far out of the mainstream of where I think most members of Congress are, and you'd certainly have a hard time. I don't think there's a lot of support for that kind of a radical change, but I think that the general point that the mixed status families raise is that you really have a lot of unauthorized immigrants who are either have U.S. citizen children or legal permanent resident spouses. They may have been in the country for a long time. They're pretty integrated in the job market. So it raises real questions about how far you can go with enforcement as your only tool, and whether I think as both of you have just suggested, legalization probably has to be in your toolkit, if we're going to try to get a system that really works right, and you need to sort of have that as part of the process of moving towards a system where we're more rule bound in the future.
Well, you heard Roy Beck refer to the CIR ASAP as a blanket amnesty. Do you agree with that description? Does it ask more of the undocumented than simply showing up and saying, "Where's my green card"?
Well, it definitely asks a lot more than the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, which is the blanket amnesty that we had under President Reagan, because people have to pay fees and pay back taxes and meet more stringent background checks. But I think that the CIR ASAP and the bill that Senator Schumer and Graham are working on does try to cast a pretty wide net, because you want to, most unauthorized immigrants who are here, it's a more practical to move them in, to move them above ground and move them into the legal economy and out of the shadows, than to try to systematically find them and round them up and remove them. And both from what can we really accomplish and a cost-effective solution, and also in terms of fairness. I think that the system has been so dysfunctional that most unauthorized immigrants who have come here, at least have received very mixed signals about what U.S. policy intends and tolerates. They've been able to work, until recently without really any question. So I think those are strong arguments for an inclusive legalization. And then the third piece is that to try to draw bright lines and say, well, if you've been here for 2 years, you're in this category. If you've been here for 5 years, you're in that category. What we know is that that's going to produce overnight a big industry and documents that say, well, I've been here 2 years or I've been here 5 years. And it's very hard to reliably enforce those time rules and to prove how long you've been here. So I think that there's a real argument for saying, look, we're going to move most of the people who are here into the legal economy as long as they don't have criminal backgrounds and as long as they're willing to sort of pay a fine and pay their back taxes. And then moving forward, we're going to have a more rule-bound system. And it's sort of a clean slate approach to how we're going to get the system to work.